everyone, it's Annie, and today I'm here to do my February wrap-up. I read 18, I think, books this month. I am actually in the middle of 2 books right now, and those are The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. Honestly, I am a little bit on the fence about whether I will actually finish this book. I am not super into it. I don't want to give my thoughts about it yet because I'm only 18% into it, so I feel like I can't really give an informed opinion, but I am not really that into it, so we'll see if I actually finish it. And I am in the middle of the 5th Murderbot book, which is the full-length novel, so I'm really enjoying it so far, although I really just started it. But I'm filming this on February 23rd, so I'll probably finish it before the month ends, and that's why I'm putting it here. So let's talk about the nonfiction books I read. There were only 2. The first one was Bicycling with Butterflies by Sarah Dykman. This is a very, very interesting book about a woman who literally bicycles over 10,000 miles following the monarch butterfly migration from Mexico to Canada and back again to the butterfly sanctuaries in Mexico. It was very, very interesting, very educational, I think. I personally do not like riding bikes. I am not good at it, don't like it. But this was a really, really interesting book. I really like butterflies. So I definitely learned a lot about the butterflies, and I also really want to plant milkweed now in my garden to provide the butterflies a space to lay their eggs and hopefully get their population back up again. So if you're interested at all in travel memoirs or nature writing or butterflies or bicycling, I highly recommend this book. And the other nonfiction book I read was Distant Sunflower Fields by Li Juan. I know I already talked about this in another video, which I'll link up there, but this was a really, really good book. I read another one of Li Juan's books, The Winter Pasture, in December, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting, an interesting look into the Kazakh minority in China, but I enjoyed this one much, much more. I think I gave this a 4.5. It was spectacular. You could really feel like you were there with Li Juan and her family as they were in the middle of nowhere in this northern province of China near the Kazakh border, where they lived and farmed sunflowers. You could really feel for them with their troubles with farming, the problems they ran into when they moved around so much, and for the various reasons they moved around, and the people they met as they moved to different places. It was very, very interesting, a really good look into a life that I never would have known about if I hadn't picked this book up, and I am now comfortable with saying that I'm a fan of Li Juan's writing, and I will definitely be picking up her other books when they get translated. So those 2 nonfiction books were actually arcs, so I have 2 fiction arcs that I'd like to talk about as well. First is In the Quick by Kate Hope Day. Now, I actually have a full review of this book up, so please check it out. I will link it up there if you want a more in-depth look into the book. But this is a really, really good sci-fi novel following this girl named June trying to figure out a problem with the fuel cells of a ship that is essentially lost in space. She's a genius character. I really, really enjoyed the way this book was written. It's a very unique way of writing, and if you'd like to know more, again, please check out my review, but I highly recommend this book. I gave it a 4.5. And the other sci-fi arc that I read was Gear Breakers by Zoe Hana Mikta. This was another one of my most anticipated releases of 2021. I guess I don't know what I expected going into it. I don't know if I got exactly what I expected, but I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, so I thought this was going to be a 5-star for me. Unfortunately, it was not. I did have a little bit of problems with it, but I really, really enjoyed it. And this just had a lot of tropes that I really enjoyed. The found family trope, enemies to lovers trope, lesbians with robots. It was really good. So, the story, it's hard to explain without giving spoilers, I think. But these gear breakers essentially go around and destroy from the inside out these giant robots. And this book has a lot of vibes from Pacific Rim, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. And it has vibes, I think, from the show Firefly because of the found family aspect and just how the characters act with one another. I think for some reason it reminded me of Firefly a lot, which is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. And I just really enjoyed this book a lot. I thought it was fun. I think there were some problems with the world building. Like, some of it just either didn't make sense or wasn't explained. And there were some points that were like a little bit info dumpy and I think could have done better. However, this is a debut novel and it was just a really enjoyable, fun read. So if you're looking for a really fun sci-fi, by the way, this is YA, but it does not shy away from violence. It does get a bit violent with torture and stuff, so just be careful about that. But all in all, I really recommend this. Now, let's get into the books that I read for Historathon. It's a historical fiction readathon, and I read quite a lot of books for it. One of them was Homegoing by Ya Jiasi. This was my first book by her that I read. I can't believe it took me this long to read this. This needs to be taught in American high schools, honestly. It is just an absolutely amazingly crafted book. I don't think it's hard to understand. The only negative reviews I've seen are people who are like, oh, I got confused because there's too many generations in the book. I don't think it was that confusing, to be honest. I think it worked really well. It definitely illustrated the point of the book very well. And what happens is these two sisters, one of them marries a white man who is in Ghana during the slave trade, and her descendants are in Ghana for the most part, and you see them throughout their lives. And her sister was captured as a slave and sent to America, and you see her descendants and how they fare during that time and afterwards. And I loved it. I absolutely loved the ending as well. I really, really recommend this, and I am definitely going to read Transcendent Kingdom by her as well. Another book for Historathon that I read was Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. I loved this. Another 5-star read. This book was super sad, but so well written. The writing was some of the best writing I have ever read in my life. Maggie O'Farrell just knows how to bring a setting to life. I have nothing bad to say about this book. It was very, very unique, I think, and it was just spectacular. I'm sure you guys already know the story. It's about William Shakespeare's son and his family in general. It's just spectacular. There is a reason that it's hyped so much, so please go read it if you haven't already. And another really hyped book that I read for Historathon was Lovely War. I loved this book too. I gave it 5 stars. So this was a really good reading month. I had quite a few 4 and 5-star books, and I thoroughly enjoyed this. I really, really liked the fact that it was told by Greek gods. I really liked them. I loved Hades. He was great. I really liked the human characters as well. I thought they were all really unique and well put together. Like the relationships as well, they fit together very well. And I really also enjoyed that it took place during World War I, because I don't know a lot about that war. And I really enjoyed the movie 1917, so it just worked for me. Everything worked for me. I don't know. I loved this book, and if you're interested in historical fiction at all, definitely check this out. It is, again, very worth the hype. And another book that I read for Historathon was The Silence of Bones by June Her. I have wanted to read a book by June Her for a while. This book is set in 1800s Korea, I believe, during the Joseon Dynasty, and it was really good. It was a mystery thriller about this girl who is an indentured servant to the police bureau. So during this time in Korea, men aren't allowed to touch women who they're not married to or in their immediate family, I believe. So these indentured servants are the ones who have to touch female corpses, which is gross. Yikes. It was a very interesting story. I gave it 3 stars because, well, I think the setting was really, really well done and I loved the historical aspect of it. I think it got a little bit too complicated for me personally, like the mystery aspect of it specifically. And I also didn't like the main character that much, but that's just personal taste. So I am definitely looking forward to June Her's next book, which is Forest of Stolen Girls. It's also set during the same time period, and I really hope that it's good. Alright, and the last Historathon book was The Smell of Other People's Houses by Bonnie Sue Hitchcock. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 3 stars. I think it's more of a 3.5. It's about these 4 teenagers whose lives kind of intertwine. It's set in Alaska during the 1970s, and I don't really want to give anything away about these teenagers' lives because that's the point of the book, and the book is very, very short, so I feel like if I say anything, it'll ruin it. The reason I didn't rate it higher is because I felt like some of the teenagers' stories were more well-developed than others, and I would have liked to see more balance. But if you read this, which I do recommend you do, I highly recommend the audiobook. It is a full cast. It's really, really well done, and I'm very glad I read this. Alright, so now let's get into the books I read for Polarthon. The first one was The Winter of the Witch by Catherine Arden, the 3rd and final book of the Winter Night trilogy. Yay, I'm so happy that I finished this trilogy. I liked this book. I gave it 3 stars. I really liked the second book, I think because it had more action. I mean, this had action too, but I just felt like something was off about it for me. Like, there's just something off about this whole trilogy for me. I don't know, that's just me. I know many, many people adore this series, and if that's you, I'm really glad, and I wish it was me. But I'm just glad that I finished it and got to the conclusion, and I really liked it. And yeah, I don't want to give anything away because of course it's the last book in a trilogy, but if you also enjoyed this trilogy, please let me know. And I read The Snow Child. I loved this. This was a 4.5 book. This book was beautiful, magical. You felt freezing while you were reading it because the descriptions of the Alaskan landscape was just, so vivid, and you felt like you were there. I felt like I was on a homestead doing hard work in rural Alaska in the 1920s. It was so good. I loved the magical aspect of it. I loved the Snow Child character. The only reason this was not a 5-star for me is because I feel like the ending was just a little bit not flat, but I feel like I wanted something else. But I guess that's a me problem and not a book problem. I don't know. But, you can't win them all. Not all of them can be 5 stars. But I absolutely loved this. It was a very, very special book. I don't think I will ever read a book like this again. It was so, so good. And it also counts for the Reading Women Challenge, a protagonist over 50. Because the older couple that this follows are older and they don't have any children, so that's where the Snow Child comes in. They make her out of snow, and then one day she comes alive. If you enjoyed this book as well, please let me know. I know it's very popular, but if you haven't already read it, I highly, highly recommend it. And the last book I read for Polarthon was a middle grade book, A Wolf for a Spell. I really, really liked this book. It was so cute, so cute. I think this has started like a want to read middle grade for me because I have not read any middle grade since I grew out of middle grade age, to be honest. Anyway, I really, really enjoyed this. This was a super magical story about a wolf who makes a deal with the Baba Yaga witch to save her pack from the humans encroaching on the forest. And they make a deal to help each other, and it is just so magical. It's set in Russia, which I love. Of course, it's a polar fantasy for Polarthon, and this cover is one of the most stunning covers I have ever seen. This art, perfect, beautiful. Oh, I adore it, and honestly, it's probably the reason I read the book, but I'm so happy I did. Alright, and now we get into the other random fiction books that I read, not for any readathons or anything. Well, actually, I read Pride by Evie Zaboy, which was for the Down Memory Jane readathon. That was our book for this month of February. It is a Pride and Prejudice retelling, a modern retelling, taking place in Brooklyn, in a neighborhood that is having rapid gentrification. But I really, really enjoyed the fact that it wasn't about a black girl and a white man. It was two black people, which I thought was a really unique spin on gentrification. It was this rich family moving into this poor neighborhood in Brooklyn, and I loved them. I really, really loved their relationship. I loved the two families and how they were different, but also how they were the same and the problems they both faced. I really liked how the original characters from Pride and Prejudice, which is one of my favorite books, by the way, were transformed into these new characters, and I loved it so much. There was also a really, really cool aspect of poetry, which I really, really liked. And the audiobook is read by Elizabeth Acevedo, so can it get any better? I don't think so. I really highly recommend this book. I don't know, there are a lot of negative reviews on Goodreads for it. I don't understand why. Like, I'm a big Pride and Prejudice fan, and I adored this book, so I think any Pride and Prejudice fan would enjoy it as well. Then I read Piranesi by by Susanna Clark. I really didn't expect this book to be what it was, but I was very pleasantly surprised. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars, only because it was so short, and I think, I don't know, it could have been, I don't know, I loved it. So basically, it's about this man, Piranesi, who is in this house that's like a labyrinth, and he's the only one there, except he sometimes meets with this guy called the Other, and it's a big mystery about what is going on, because one day he finds letters from people who might be in the house that he never knew, but he knows everything about the house, so what's going on? I really thought this was an incredibly creative concept for a novel. Hats off to Susanna Clark. This is super creative. I don't know how she came up with this, to be honest. And I guess the only thing that kept it from being a 5 stars is that the mystery part, when you find out what it is, I wish that there was a little bit more explanation of what was actually going on, because it's a really, really cool concept, but I don't know, personally I would have liked a little bit more of a concrete explanation, but I know that can't always be possible. Then I read Gin Patrol on the Purple Line. This was a prompt for the Reading Women's Challenge, and I liked it. I gave it 3 stars. It's another mystery thriller. It's set in India, and it is about this group of kids who try and find their missing classmate. And throughout the whole book, a bunch of kids go missing, And it's an interesting look into the classism of India, because the kids that you're following in the book are extremely poor. They live in a slum, but they kind of go head to head with like the rich elite in some parts of the book, which is a really interesting thing to read about. Personally, I think, I don't know, I just didn't really enjoy the fact that it was from a kid's perspective. I don't know, it was fine. It was an interesting read. I enjoyed it. I felt like there was going to be more of a magical realism aspect to it, but there really wasn't. So that was a bit disappointing, but that wasn't anything to do with the book. It was just me not knowing what it was about. So yeah, I recommend this if you're looking for an interesting read, interesting thriller set in India, but I did have a little bit of reservations about it, so that's why it's only a 3-star from me. Okay, we have 2 more. Another book that I read was Fireheart Tiger by Aliette de Baudard. I really enjoyed this. It is a very short novella inspired by a Vietnam-esque setting. It's a fantasy novella, and it is sapphic, and it is great. I loved it. I really, really enjoyed the way that it explored the themes present in the book, the themes of trauma, the themes of abuse, whether it's familial, relationship-wise, and the themes of colonialism and the overarching effects it has and the personal effects it has on people. I really thought this novella was extremely well done, and if you're looking for a good new fantasy, I would really recommend it. And the last book that I wanted to talk about, I'm a little nervous to talk about. I know some people are not going to be happy with me, and I am sorry in advance. It is House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. This book, like, everyone has rated 5 stars. I rated it a 3.5. I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't. Like, I even read some reviews that said, like, oh, if you don't rate this 5 stars, you don't have a soul. It's like, well, I guess I don't, like, I just don't get it. It was fine. I don't understand why it is so well loved, especially in 2021, because there is so much fatphobic language in this book. I don't understand how that's so overlooked in so many people's loving reviews of this. Like, I understand, okay, the main character is going to be fat, which is great, representation, okay, but every other page was like, oh, he was so round that he, like, bumped into everything, and everyone's making comments all the time about how fat he is, and it was really upsetting to me. I did not like that aspect. It was just not for me. I am so sorry. I felt like it was too much. Like, one of the kids is the son of Lucifer, but there's like no exploration about how that's even possible and like how religion is like in the world. You're just supposed to accept everything going on. I mean, I liked it. 3.5 means I liked the book, okay? I liked it, but there were some things that I just couldn't overlook. I thought some of it was extremely cute. I really liked the interactions that Arthur had with all of the children, and I really liked the main relationship. Please don't hate me for not giving this book a 5 stars. I did enjoy it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have finished it, okay? I promise. I enjoyed it, just not as much as other people did. However, I understand why other people did, because I can see how this book would be really comforting, especially during the times that we live in, and how it could be really uplifting because of the messages it has about acceptance and love, and I definitely appreciate that. So don't get me wrong, this was a good book, and I am very much looking forward to TJ Klune's next release, which comes out in the fall, and that is Under the Whispering Door. So those are my thoughts. Okay, guys, so those are my thoughts on all the books I read this month. I am sorry if you don't agree with everything I said, but To each their own, you know, if you enjoyed any of the books that I did not enjoy, I am very, very happy for you because I wish I enjoyed every single book I read. I wish every single book would be a 5 stars, of course. But all in all, this month was really successful. I had a lot of 4 and 5 star books, and I really recommend almost everything I read this month. So if you enjoyed any of these books that I mentioned, or if you read something really special this month and you'd like to tell me about it, please let me know down in the comments down below. I'd be really happy to chat with you about it. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you! Have a nice day! Bye!